Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the Court of the EDI Jester. How are we, everyone? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. It's another cold, miserable, and wet day here in the UK, in good old Blighty. But I've got an article here, okay, from Canada, okay, from a group called, wait for it, what are they called? Let's have a look and see. Ricochet Media. Really, right, okay. Who've written this piece, and we talk quite often in circles. Oh, become a warrior teacher. Come on. Come on. Buy me a coffee. Give me a super thanks if you can. Help out. End of the month's coming, folks. Please help. Are we witnessing, they're saying, these people, wait for it, the beginning of an LGBTQ genocide? That's the title of the article, by the way. That's the title of the article. Okay. So they're asking serious questions in this article, but unfortunately they undo themselves at the same time. So it's an interesting one to look at, because there's some hyperbole that we talk about, as I said, all the time. We talk all the time about the hyperbolic nature of the world in which we now live, and the flattening of communication through both hyperbole and understatement. It's an extraordinary thing, but it's true. Now, so you can look to Russia and Uganda to see where the US and Canada could be heading. Really? Really? Okay, written by someone called Andrea Houston. 10 years ago, as a reporter at Canada's preeminent queer publication. Right, you lost me. You're a nutter. Fruit Loop. You lost me. I covered growing crackdown against LGBTQ people. That 10 years ago, they didn't call it that. It's a lie in the first line, right? LGBTQ people in Russia, East Africa, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. 'Twas ever thus. Right? Take it up with them, which is what we should be doing. Right? 5 years ago, as a staff member at an organisation that assists LGBTQ people fleeing these and other regions, that generally they're gays or lesbians, aren't they? What's the Q got to do with it? Nothing. This is the worst kind of forced teaming. It's vile, isn't it? Utterly vile. I'm glad you did some of that work, but I bet it was gay people you're hoping, mostly men. Right, mostly men. I know a young lady from Kuwait who's in that problem. Got the problem. She's trying to stay here, you know. Come on. Was it lesbians and gays, or was it the TQ Nuttery? You tell me. To do what you do and lie about it. Ugh. These days, I sit on the board of a Ugandan group that helps queer people who are unable to... It's not queer people, it's gay people. Right, it's gay people, you disingenuous, lying individual, which is a shame, because the work you do is important. You've got to the important position where you can help gay people escape regimes that kill them. And what do you choose to do with it? Call them queer. A slur. Right? An indicator of fealty to a theory that breaks down all boundaries, including that between adults and children. Right? So your job, what you do, is brilliant. But unfortunately, you've undone it all. You've disgraced yourself on the international stage in regards to gays and lesbians. You've disgraced yourself by forced teaming us with a T and the Q, which has got nothing to do with us. Nothing. Right? Think it gets better? Wait and see. So they've been, screening people that were trying to escape in safe houses as the government passes more and more laws that criminalise their existence. What is currently unfolding in the United States and Canada around queer and trans rights. See? So you've got did you notice the flip-flop there? So we start with LGBTQ, and then we go on to, well, queer people need to escape. And you and I know it's gay people that need to escape. The laws are against gay sex, aren't they? Same-sex attraction. Right? That's what the laws are against. And then you get the flip. Okay, what is currently unfolding in the United States and Canada around queer and trans rights. There's no such thing as queer and trans rights. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Please define your terms. This person's trying to get people out and probably doing it with the best will in the world, but this is a nonsense, isn't it, really? So what's happening in Canada and the US are rights is reminiscent of the early stages of these terrifying campaigns that I've seen play out elsewhere. Really? Most of the countries that you mentioned have always seen gays as criminals. I've always seen them as somebody who should be punished for their love and who they love. And what do? Compare it to trans and queer rights. Are you quite right in the head? It says here, it's an escalation of a specific decades-long effort spearheaded by American evangelicals to incite a legislative crackdown against LGBTQ people. What? I mean, it's just a lie. It's just a damned lie. What began with Anita Bright and Pat Robertson in the US has since expanded to involve the organised exportation of homophobia and transphobia around the world through a well-funded network of extremist Christian groups and organisations. This is delusion on a grand scale. On a grand scale. Now, admittedly, of course there are Christian groups, but they don't want to genocide us. They're comparing people I've spoken to who are religious folk in America, people who have a belief that they live their life by their belief. They don't want to kill me. This person is comparing Christian people to Nazis, right? Or Mao, or Pol Pot, or Ceausescu. Pick your dictator of the day. That's what they're doing. And they're doing so under the guise of, we care. One may smile and still be a villain. To politically use the situation in Uganda and other countries around the world where it is still a crime to be gay, it is still something that will get you the death penalty if you are gay. And compare that with men in dresses and blue-haired, ring-nosed twats who think they're something they're not, is utterly offensive. Beyond the pale offensive. It's insane. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, Uganda and Russia were among the countries in which their strategies found traction, resulting in legislation that claimed LGBTQ people were a threat to children. The legislation, right, which came in was because of people who are a threat to children. And now I don't mean a sexual threat. I've said this before a dozen times. That isn't necessarily the threat. The threat is the attack on childhood. That's exactly what happened. That's what Russia did. Now, Uganda's a different story altogether. So why are you linking the two together? I tell you what, we'll lump these in together so we can make it look like there's a genocide coming. There is no genocide coming. You absolute, utter disgrace of an individual. That was an incredibly effective measure that propelled politicians in both countries to new heights of popularity and offered them an easy distraction from domestic corruption, an easy scapegoat for an assortment of social ills, and an easy outlet for state violence and depression. This has actually come from them. I mean, you could read it yourself. Go and have a look. The idea that gay people were trying to recruit children was introduced to Uganda by an American pastor named Scott Lively. It wasn't gay people, right? It's the LGBTQ plus learner 2S, Anthony's and Bubbles Daisy people, isn't it? That's what's happened. Is we're getting a backlash, which everybody, including me, has been warning about for the last 5 years, because you nut jobs wouldn't get off our backs with your nonsense about the trans child and children know they're trans in the womb, and I know a trans sperm, right? My ova is trans. You nutters, right, who have made a mental illness into an identity. And then the queer crowd who've come along. Oh, we're queer, we're so transgressive. We can bang pianos with our willy, and we cover ourselves in urine outside notable buildings and architectural structures. What did you think people were going to do? Lie down and take it? I've said it before with this, it's not just that what happens affects us. People like other countries look to various other countries and think, what are they doing about this? What's happening about this? They see what's happening. They see the damage to the children by the surgeon's knife under the premise of gender-affirming care, which is in fact bodily mutilation, which, by the way, has a 100% failure rate. They see the children being groomed online on TikTok and wherever the hell it is. Is there other things that are still working that I now know nothing about? What about Tumblr? Is that still about? I think it is, right? They see what's happening. They see the parents speaking about the horror of losing their child. They see the child become the adult who is then a detransitioner who sues. They see the court cases. They see the disruption of every single thing in our society, from the civil service to the NHS, from the school system to our political processes. They see it and they go, right, we've had enough of this. How are we going to stop it? Let's go for the root cause. And they think the root cause is gay people. And it's not. The root cause is you, mate. You. With your lies and your hyperbole while you sit there in your little protective role. You've corrupted the idea of what it is that you intended to do, to the extent that it is no longer recognisable to man nor beast. And then you wrap it up in a story about American and evangelicals taking the message to Russia, leading to a 2013 law against gay propaganda that allowed President Putin to pander to his Orthodox support base. This was always going to happen, right? What did you think was going to happen when you said to parents around the world, we're coming for your kids? When you said to parents around the world, we need a socialist state that will make the children more important than you are, like you've done in Canada, but the children will be more important to the state than you are, because the state will own your children. What do you think would happen when you imprison fathers for caring for their daughters, for protecting their daughters? What do you think would happen when you made men who believed or thought they are women better than, rather than better than women, actual women, rather than saying to them, no, mate, you're just a deluded fool? What did you think was going to happen? Now, I think the Canadian bear is waking up. I think the time is coming when the Canadian people are going to get a grip. We've got the million person march coming up, haven't we? I bet the mainstream media don't report it. And yes, people are going to find themselves in bed with people that hate the very notion of gay people. But I don't see anybody else. Putin hasn't said we want to genocide people. There's more nuance to this than you're willing to look at. And then you take from Jewish foundations, right, the definition of what happens in a genocide, which is based upon the factual observations of the Shoah of the Second World War, and you apply that to modern day thinking based on the idea that those that don't agree with your insane beliefs in queer theory, gender identity, ideology, and everything else that comes under the postmodern T are Nazis. You're a damn disgrace, right? And you shame your country. Which is a shame, because it's a lovely country, is Canada, with lovely people. They'll get miffed eventually, and it will start. The backlash hasn't finished, you're right. The backlash in Uganda is a direct result of seeing gender identity, ideology, and queer theory play out on the international stage. They're no fools. They don't want their children hurt by you. They're no fools. Right? And they've not bothered to see the difference. Right, they've gone, no, we'll do the lot. Because when you do that, when you force team people together like you have with gay people and these TQ plus loons, what that means is they can go get rid of the lot. Because gay people aren't speaking up in enough numbers, because they aren't saying, that's it, we're done. Get this nonsense gone. What we do here affects everything. Do you not understand that? What we do in Canada affects everything. The United States affects everything. You think people are looking at each other? More gay people need to speak up, because if you're not, these laws are going to get worse and they're going to come into places you never thought it was possible that they would. But that's nothing in comparison to what's coming if we end up with left-leaning nutters running the country here, like they have in Canada. Then you'll see some real tears. Real hard ones. Worse than what we're doing now. Worse than we see now with the parents. Worse than we see now with the detransitioners. When people realise what it is, in order to feel good about themselves, they have given up. Speak up, especially gay men. Speak up, and do so quickly. Because the clock, ladies and gentlemen, is very much ticking. See you later.